What's up folks, Max here, bringing you guys an update on Killer Instinct and the stuff that's going to be happening within the next month or so. We're pretty much just about T-minus 1 month away from the release of the final character from Double Helix, and it's FULGORE. Just around the same time, I think many of us are expecting the arcade mode and the actual full story mode of Killer Instinct to become available as well, finally solidifying the game and making it a full package. But what I wanted to talk about today is one of the most anticipated characters that I personally have for the entire game. And outside of the things that we've already mentioned based off his little bit of footage that was revealed at the end of the Spinal trailer, I want to discuss some of the things that have been announced, hinted at, and that we somewhat know about FULGORE, his playstyle, and anything else regarding the most anticipated character in the new Killer Instinct. So FULGORE, for the most part, in the previous versions of KI, was somewhat a hybrid character like most of the other characters in the cast. He did have a few select other tools that many other characters didn't have, notably like jumping eye lasers in Killer Instinct 2, as well as reflect moves and teleports. Granted, the only official teleport character in the game at the moment really is Spinal, and Spinal's teleport you have to be very careful with or else you get thrown out of it like crazy. You can technically consider Glacius's Puddle Punch to be kind of a teleport, but Spinal really deserves it. However, the utilization of FULGORE's teleport in the past was kind of crazy, and how they actually are going to use it in this one, I don't know. The first thing I'm thinking is similar to Spinal, you kind of throw a fireball and then teleport to the opposite side and mix up your opponent, but Spinal's already got that, so I'm wondering if he does have a teleport, what kind of utilization it's going to have. However, a lot of mention and a lot of different things that have been talked about on the Microsoft livestream have gone into the depths of how FULGORE plays, and we keep hearing things about him being a zoning character. There isn't too many zoning characters in KI. Jago technically is a zoning and spacing character. He can actually do a lot of different things, including Rushdown, which is why I think Jago is technically the best in the game. But FULGORE they're talking about is actually going to be specifically spacing. He can kind of be a hybrid, I'd imagine, because most characters in this game have an element of Rushdown to them, which is why it's a very offensive type of fighting game. But I think FULGORE kind of does fit into that style. Granted, he has multiple types of moves between eye lasers, between projectile attacks of those different laser charges he had in the past, and we also saw a full beam charge of some kind within the small snippet of footage we saw from him at the end of the Spinal trailer. But at the same time, he's got a lot of different attacks in KI 1 and 2 that would mention him being a charge character, as well as being a character that would allow you to do things of a rushdown nature with his dash punch and things like that. What's kind of funny is that I make the similarities every once in a while of how FULGORE would act in a modern Killer Instinct, and I'm actually somewhat reminded of Superman in Injustice between eye lasers, multiple projectiles, and rushdown attacks. I only hope he's not as crazy freaking beefy as Superman was when Injustice initially came out, but I do kind of see the similarities between FULGORE and a character like that, and it's just kind of weird how they remind me of each other so much. My personal hopes, on the other hand, are that FULGORE is going to be a rushdown character. I do appreciate him having projectiles. I think that'd be good if he does have projectiles, but Double Helix did quite try to change things in Killer Instinct by not having every single character have a projectile attack. Sure, most have some, but not everybody has access to something like they did in the previous games. Most of the characters in the old Killer Instinct games, as we know, were essentially the same. They all had uppercuts, the majority of them had fireballs, and the majority of them had rushdown attacks. But in the new KI, everyone's very different. I hope we see something extremely different with FULGORE, similar to how we see with Spinal in Killer Instinct, and he's drastically different than a lot of other members of the cast because of how you have to do things with him, making them a little bit more complicated. And I do kind of hope that to be a thing with FULGORE as well. There are a couple characters in the game that are pretty bare bones, and by bare bones I don't mean they're boring or characters that they're not fun to play. I don't mean that by any means at all. What I mean is that their game plan and their strategy is pretty straightforward, and Orchid and Saberwolf are a couple of examples. And at one point I thought Orchid and Saberwolf were very similar style characters, but they ended up being very different at high level, which is why I like playing either one a lot of the time. But I hope FULGORE kind of fits within the variety of a rushdown character. Making a rushdown hybrid zoner type character, if they do choose to go with all the projectiles and all the stuff that we kind of remember him having from the previous Killer Instinct games, can be a little scary, because if you have a character that has the ability to rush people down as well as keep you at a distance from a very long distance or medium range distance, that's a terrifying character, and that sounds like he's going to be amazing, just like Superman, as we might have mentioned before. Now, there's been other mentions as far as the character style, what he's going to play like, and I think the guys at Microsoft have said numerous times that they're looking a lot at his playstyles from previous Killer Instinct games, his move list and stuff like that, so this is just a hunch, but based off the things that have been said in the past, I'm pretty sure we're going to see something along the lines of multiple projectiles. We're going to see something along the lines of his dash punch returning in some regard. Probably is going to have an uppercut. That might actually be the one thing I'm curious about, if he does have a legit uppercut. If he's actually more similar to Jago, that would make sense, but you'd have to change something about him. What makes Jago really good is his ability to have such great buttons on the ground, and when he's at close range, he's just got frame traps galore, almost more than any other character in the cast. And depending how FULGORE ends up being, he might be very similar to Jago, and I don't think I'm actually very disappointed by that. If he was similar to Jago, I'd kind of be okay with this. Although I do not want a clone by any means, I want a character that can do similar things that Jago can, but have a little bit of variety. His instinct mode needs to be a little bit more crazy. His unique combo mechanic kind of has to take things in a new regard other than the rest of the characters. And there's been a few things that I've read on some of the Double Helix forums that get me really excited, and somebody mentioned at one point that FULGORE could have something similar to a cloaking device, kind of like the Predator has. As you guys know, the influences in FULGORE go crazy back into 80s monster movies as well as 80s sci-fi movies, and FULGORE is essentially the RoboCop, Terminator, and Predator just merged into one. And he has had some stuff in the past very similar to cloaking, going invisible, and those have been actually traits and moves that he shared between Killer Instinct 1 and 2. And I'm pretty sure they're going to return with that in this game as well. Some sort of cloaking mechanic that he'll have in the game. And I think it'd be freaking brilliant, just absolutely crazy. And this was mentioned not by myself, but a Double Helix poster over on their forums, that what if FULGORE's instinct mode actually made him invisible like the Predator, and made his moves and his auto doubles and his linkers extremely difficult to read, but also difficult for the player to control, because at the same time you can't see what exactly your actions are taking place on the screen, because you're cloaked as well, you can't see through the invisible armor. I think that's a great idea, and I think that'd be a crazy thing to do as far as an instinct mode, albeit very powerful. You'd kind of be forced to guess a lot of the time, especially if he's cloaked and it's very difficult to see what he's doing between linkers and doubles and stuff like that. There's a lot of crazy creative stuff. I do think, based off some of the stuff that they've mentioned before, and I think the guys at Microsoft might have actually confirmed this on one of the streams, that the big beam thing that comes out of FULGORE's chest is indeed a move. It's actually not just a cinematic thing that they added at the end of this final trailer to show him off. It is indeed something that he can possibly do in the game. So whether or not that ends up being a cinematic thing, or heck, it could actually be a no mercy of some kind that he has. It could just be his Ultra Ender, which are practically no mercies in every regard. But it's something, and it's something that we can hint at, that he's potentially a projectile character that can do things from a distance, and I only hope that he doesn't have to do things from a distance, and ends up being a character that I'm excited about getting in. I'm excited about going in and going a little bit crazy, going for some unsafe stuff and going for some risky stuff, and as long as it looks cool, man, as long as FULGORE exposes that cool, crazy style that he kind of was this 90s movie dude-in-suit monster robot thing, I'm okay with it. As long as he looks like a badass robot in the modern age, I think that's one of the most important things I'm looking for. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and what do you think FULGORE should do during his instinct mode, and what are some of the things about the character that you're looking forward to the most? Is it just me, or is FULGORE just so freaking hype that it's got me almost more excited about this character than anyone in the cast? I appreciate your feedback, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as soon as we know more about FULGORE, we'll be doing a complete breakdown on this channel, and I'll be doing some live streaming of the character as soon as I get a chance. My name is Maximilian, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.